The galaxy thought humans were a cosmic joke, barely evolved primates playing with technology they didn't understand. But arrogance has consequences. When the Zarian hegemony wiped out the human colony of New Montana, Earth's reply was not simply vengeance, it was a demonstration of power so absolute it reshaped galactic order. This is the testimony of those who underestimated humanity and the terrible lessons they learned. For 10,000 years, the Zarian hegemony had sat at the top of galactic civilization. Their fleets dominated the stars, their technology was second to none, and their supremacy was treated as a universal fact. To the Zarians, younger species were children to be disciplined, curiosities to be studied, or nuisances to be crushed. None had ever posed a serious challenge. When humanity first emerged from its cradle on Earth, the hegemony barely noticed. Their probes detected primitive vessels leaving Sol, small colonies sprouting in nearby systems, and fragmented nations that could not even unify on their homeworld. To the Zarians, humans were an amusing anomaly, a bipedal species fumbling with fire they did not understand. Grand Admiral Vexnar, speaking before the council, voiced what most already believed. Barely evolved primates playing with toys they cannot control. The chamber laughed. No one considered them worth more than a footnote. But beneath the arrogance, signs were already there. Lieutenant Crest, one of the few who studied humanity closely, reported troubling intelligence, 17 Jovian extraction platforms scattered across human space. These platforms weren't simple fuel harvesters, they were stockpiling antimatter. The energy calculations were staggering, far more than any civilian economy should require. Crest warned the council, "They are preparing something. Their development is accelerating beyond projections." Vexnar dismissed. Edit with a flick of his appendage. "Let them burn hydrogen. What can they possibly do that we cannot counter?" The chamber rippled with amusement. Crest's warnings were logged, then buried. It was a fatal mistake. Because humanity was not like other species. The Zarians believed in predictable, incremental progress, research driven by centuries of stability, carefully measured advances, each discovery layered upon the last. Humanity did not play by those rules. Their history was filled with leaps that defied logic, technologies born out of desperation, inventions forged in the fires of conflict. Nuclear weapons had appeared less than a century after flight. Computers, rockets, and artificial satellites all emerged within decades of one another, driven not by cooperation, but by rivalry. Humans had a phrase for it: wartime innovation. To them, tragedy and competition were not setbacks, they were accelerants. Every conflict pushed them forward, forcing breakthroughs that other civilizations would not attempt for centuries. The Zarian analysts misread humanity's chaos as weakness. They saw disunity in Earth's fractured nations, bickering governments, and competing corporations. What they missed was that this disunity was fuel. Rivalries drove humanity to push boundaries faster, to achieve the impossible just to outpace one another. Division created innovation, and when threatened, humanity had the capacity to set those divisions aside with terrifying speed. But the greatest mistake was psychological. The Zarians assumed that intimidation would work as it had with countless other species. When confronted with overwhelming firepower, most civilizations submitted. When threatened, they yielded. When punished, they remembered their place. The hegemony assumed humanity would behave the same way. They could not have been more wrong. Humanity had a long history of resisting the impossible. Legends of their earliest eras told of armies holding mountain passes against overwhelming odds, of civilizations rebuilt from ashes after conquest, of revolutions fought against empires vastly stronger than themselves. Defiance was not an anomaly for humans, it was their defining trait. Threats did not cow them, threats united them. Yet the Council ignored these warnings. They treated human colonies as trespasses, their peaceful overtures as submission. They saw New Montana, the frontier settlement that would later become the spark for galactic upheaval, as nothing but arrogance. 17 formal warnings were sent to Earth. 17 times humans ignored them. Instead of recognizing the pattern, the Zarians laughed. To them, humanity was reckless. To humanity, it was principle. Historian Torlak Zoom would later write with bitter clarity, "We should have known better. The signs were there. The humans were not playing with toys. They were building weapons. They were not trespassing. They were expanding. They were not reckless. They were inevitable." But arrogance blinded the hegemony. To them, Earth was nothing more than a curious upstart, another young species reaching beyond its means. Their council chambers echoed with laughter. Their admirals mocked human hacker tricks that disrupted entertainment channels with dancing videos. Their governors dismissed the colonists of New Montana as squatters to be erased. The Zerians had faced countless challenges in their long supremacy, but never one like humanity. They could not imagine a species that made war a catalyst for growth. They could not comprehend a people who treated survival as innovation and threats as motivation. So they underestimated, they dismissed, they laughed. And in doing so, they planted the seeds of their own ruin. Because when the humans were finally provoked, when one colony was burned and 37,000 lives extinguished, the galaxy would learn a truth the Zerians had ignored. Humanity was not primitive, not fragile, not weak. Humanity was an extinction event waiting to be triggered. New Montana was never meant to be a battlefield. It was a frontier colony, a place of families and builders, of farmers who coaxed crops from dry soil, and engineers who raised domes against the thin atmosphere. It was humanity at its most hopeful, a settlement of 37,452 souls reaching into the stars, not to conquer, but to live. Children attended schools beneath protective domes, scientists studied the unique flora, miners harvested ore for Earth's expanding fleets, and entire generations dreamed of calling this distant world home. To the Zerian hegemony, however, New Montana was an offense. Centuries earlier, a Zerian probe had skimmed the system, filed a mineral registry, and declared it part of their territory. No colonization followed, no development, no presence beyond legal claim. Yet, when humanity built something lasting there, the Zerians saw it not as progress, but as defiance. The council met in heated debate. Some urged patience, others urged diplomacy. But the louder voices, the admirals, the generals, the hawks, framed the colony as a test. If humanity could ignore warnings 17 times without consequence, what would stop other species from doing the same? Supreme Overlord Zuvan delivered the final word, cold, crystalline, merciless. They must be corrected, a lesson is required. Thus was born Operation Swift Justice. 3 battlecruisers, 5,000 elite troops, orbital bombardment batteries, all directed against a civilian world with no defenses, no planetary shields, no warships, no armies. The Zerians knew the outcome before the first ship left dock. The assault began at dawn. The colonists woke to a sky aflame. Massive ships cut through the clouds like blades, their engines boiling the atmosphere as they descended. Sirens screamed across settlements. Children were rushed into shelters. Farmers abandoned their fields and ran toward domes. Some tried to send transmissions for help, but jamming blanketed the system. The only messages that escaped were fragmented, desperate pleas carried on emergency bands. "They're burning the city. They're everywhere. God, someone help us." The bombardment was merciless. Plasma fire turned habitats into molten slag. Entire streets vanished in white-hot bursts. The largest dome cracked under sustained fire and imploded, crushing thousands beneath collapsing steel and glass. The air filled with smoke, choking ash, and the screams of the dying. Within hours, the orbital infrastructure was reduced to wreckage. Docks, cargo platforms, orbital greenhouses, all destroyed. Zerian soldiers swept through the ruins with clinical efficiency, hunting survivors, executing resistance. Their orders were clear: leave nothing standing. By the 6th hour, New Montana was dead. The Zerians congratulated themselves. Reports praised the precision, the efficiency, the minimal collateral damage to planetary resources. The fleet suffered no losses. The hegemony proclaimed victory. But beneath the triumph, not all were at ease. Torlak Zoom, a historian present in council, recalled the unease in his chronicles. "I told them then, humans do not yield to threats, they respond to them. Their psychology does not submit, it defies. But my warnings were ignored." The Zerians thought they had taught a lesson in fear. What they had truly done was ignite humanity's fury. On Earth, the images smuggled out in those final transmissions spread like wildfire. Footage of children clutching toys as flames consumed their homes, families running through burning streets, soldiers gunned down as they tried to defend civilians with mining equipment and construction tools. Every image became sacred. Every statistic became a wound carved into the heart of humanity. The death toll was exact: 37,452 lives lost. Of those, 412 were children under 10. To the hegemony, these were numbers in a report. To humanity, they were rallying cries. Politicians recited them in speeches. Colonies painted them on banners. Families whispered them like prayers. The tragedy united a fractured species in a way nothing else ever had. On Earth, parliaments once divided by ideology spoke with one voice. Rival corporations redirected fleets for a single cause. Military academies doubled their intake, factories retooled overnight, and entire industries turned toward one purpose. Humanity did not mourn quietly. Humanity sharpened its grief into a weapon. And in the silence that followed, the Zerians misread the signs again. 3 days passed. No retaliation came. No fleets, no demands, no transmissions. Alien analysts scoffed. Perhaps they are too disorganized, they said. Perhaps the humans will simply send another wave of silly hacker pranks to disrupt our entertainment channels. Laughter echoed in the halls of the hegemony. But humanity was not laughing. They were building, plotting, preparing. New Montana was not the end, it was the spark. And when humanity answered, they would not respond with pleas or apologies. They would respond with something the galaxy had never seen before. Vengeance sharpened into precision. Justice delivered with fire from the void. The Zerians thought they had erased a colony. What they had truly done was awaken a predator. The Zerians expected anger. They expected speeches, perhaps an ineffectual raid, maybe even sanctions or failed attempts at revenge. What they did not expect was silence. 3 days passed after the destruction of New Montana. Human networks went dark, trade convoys rerouted, and no transmissions came. For the first time, Earth was quiet. That silence unnerved the galaxy. Then, without warning, it ended. Over Zephyria Prime, the very heart of the hegemony, an impossible shadow appeared in orbit. No hyperspace signature, no warp distortion, no gravimetric fluctuations. One moment the sky was clear, and the next, a ship hung there, black, angular, absorbing all light, its presence more absence than substance. Panic swept the defense grid. War sirens wailed across the capital. Admiral Vexnar, furious at the intrusion, demanded identification. His voice shook with the authority of 10 millennia of dominance. "This is the Zerian Defense Command. Unidentified vessel, you are trespassing in sovereign space. Declare yourselves at once." For 27 minutes there was nothing. No response, no movement. Then, finally, a voice came across every frequency, clear and calm. "This is Admiral Eleanor Reyes of the United Earth Navy." It was not a plea. It was not a declaration of war. It was a statement of fact, delivered in flawless Zerian. "You massacred 37,452 of our people. 412 of them were children under the age of 10. We are here for the bill." The words hit harder than any bombardment. They were delivered without anger, without shouting, cold, precise, like a surgeon describing an incision. The Zerian High Command scrambled. Some urged negotiation, others mocked humanity's audacity. Vexnar tried to bluster, speaking of trespasses and law, of humanity overreaching. Reyes cut him off. "No misunderstanding. You had choices, diplomacy, silence, mercy. You chose extermination. That was your last mistake." And then the sky filled with shadows. Dozens, hundreds, thousands of human ships emerged around Zephyria Prime, encircling the planet in an iron ring. They did not arrive through hyperspace lanes or jump points. They simply were. One moment, the system was empty. The next, it was full. The alien sensors could not explain it. There were no energy spikes, no space-time ripples. Human ships ignored the very laws the galaxy depended on. The hegemony's fleet mobilized. 8,000 warships, the greatest concentration of firepower in Zerian history. Planetary shields flared, weapons powered up. It was, by every metric, the strongest defense any world could muster. But the humans did not fire. Instead, they released pods, small, featureless spheres drifting lazily toward the Zerian formations. Vexnar laughed at the sight, ordering them destroyed. Thousands of plasma beams and laser barrages tore through the void, but the pods did not explode. The fire passed straight through, as if they weren't there at all. Then the pods phased through shields, through armor, through bulkheads. They appeared inside bridges, command centers, even the Supreme Overlord's fortified bunker kilometers beneath the surface. From each pod emerged a human silhouette, ghostly, translucent but solid enough to move, to touch. One by one, admirals, generals, ministers, governors, everyone tied to New Montana's annihilation, vanished, pulled out of bunkers, ripped from their flagships, stolen from the safety of entire fleets. They did not die, they were simply gone, snatched away by human hands that did not obey the laws of matter. Even Supreme Overlord Zuvan, guarded by her most elite soldiers, disappeared mid-command. One moment she was screaming defiance, the next, silence. Weapons fire did nothing. Energy blasts passed through them. Guards screamed as the phantoms walked through walls, ignoring every barrier, and then, with a single touch, they seized their targets. In just 20 minutes, the entire command structure of the hegemony evaporated. The mighty Zerian fleet, 8,000 ships, remained intact, but their leaders were gone, their empire leaderless, their people paralyzed. Only Admiral Vexnar remained, hiding behind quantum shields thought impenetrable. He raged, demanded explanations, cursed the humans, and then, inevitably, the walls shimmered. A phantom stepped into the chamber, its face unmistakably human. "What are you?" Vexnar whispered, his arrogance finally stripped away, leaving only fear. The projection smiled faintly. "We are what you made us, and we want justice." And then he was gone too. The ghost fleet vanished as suddenly as it appeared, leaving no wreckage, no trace, no battle. Not a single shot had been fired. The Zerian war machine remained fully operational, yet completely powerless. For the first time in 10,000 years, the hegemony realized it was not the apex predator of the galaxy. Humanity had shown them something worse than conquest: inevitability. The ghost fleet's appearance had left the Zerian hegemony paralyzed. In less than half an hour, their entire leadership had been abducted in full view of their people and their fleets. No battle had been fought, no ships destroyed, yet the humiliation was complete. But that was only the first stage. For weeks, silence followed. No demands, no negotiations, no ransom. The galaxy buzzed with speculation. Were the captured leaders dead, dissected, tortured? Entire cults sprang up around theories. Some claimed the humans had ascended into gods, others believed the officials had been erased from existence itself. The not knowing was worse than any truth. And then, the transmissions began. Every galactic frequency lit up, across every species' communication channels, in every language, on every screen, from military command posts to entertainment holos. An image appeared, a tribunal. Humans in dark uniforms sat behind a bench, flanked by glowing emblems of the United Earth Navy and the Earth Council. Before them stood the captured Zerian leaders, shackled in restraints that glowed with an energy no one recognized. The charges echoed clearly, translated perfectly into thousands of tongues. War crimes against humanity, the massacre of New Montana. For the first time, the galaxy saw Zerians not as rulers, but as criminals. Admiral Vexnar roared in protest, his arrogance undimmed even in chains. "This is a sham. Humanity is an upstart race. You cannot judge us." His words rang hollow. The humans answered not with threats but with evidence, raw footage of New Montana's burning skies, intercepted orders signed by Zerian command, testimonies from survivors, each piece presented with surgical precision. The galaxy watched as the proudest commanders of the hegemony withered under the weight of their own crimes. Some raged, others wept. A few attempted defiance, only to be silenced with more proof. The humans were not improvising. They had built an airtight case. This was not vengeance masquerading as justice. It was justice sharpened into a weapon. And the punishments? They were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The hegemony expected executions, swift, merciful, familiar. Instead, the sentences delivered were chilling. Life imprisonment in supermax isolation. To humans, it was a known punishment. To the Zerians, it was unthinkable. Death, they understood. Exile, they understood. But to strip a being of contact, of command, of all influence, to confine them to silence and solitude forever, was a cruelty beyond their imagination. Their society was built on hierarchy and dominance. To be removed from it entirely was a fate worse than death. General Pra did not even make it to his cell. Reports later suggested he took his own life during transit, choosing oblivion over the horror of isolation. Others tried to negotiate, to plead, but humanity was unmoved. The most chilling case was that of Supreme Overlord Zuvan. For decades, she had ruled with unshakable will, a leader who survived countless assassination attempts and rebellions. She had been unbreakable. Yet, when she was finally returned weeks later, released as a gesture perhaps, or as a message, she was not the same. Witnesses described her as hollow, her voice trembling, her eyes unfocused. She muttered endlessly of gods in human skin, and stars pulled apart like thread. The hegemony attempted to hide her condition, but the truth spread quickly. Their greatest leader, reduced to a husk after only weeks in human custody. If humanity could shatter her, what hope did anyone else have? The genius of Earth's response was not in destruction, but in restraint. Humanity had not glassed planets. They had not wiped out fleets. They had left the hegemony alive, but broken. By making their justice public, by humbling their leaders before the entire galaxy, they didn't just punish the guilty. They dismantled the illusion of Zerian supremacy. Every species watching understood the message. Humanity could destroy them, easily, but they chose not to. Instead, they let them live, forced to carry the weight of their humiliation. Commander Dante Washington summarized it best in one interview after the trials. "We don't need to destroy them. Fear will do the work for us." And it did. From that moment, every Zerian soldier who boarded a ship wondered if a phantom would appear through the bulkhead. Every governor questioned whether loyalty to the hegemony was worth drawing humanity's gaze. Every citizen whispered about the broken overlord and the humans who judged gods. The hegemony had always ruled through fear. Now they lived under it. And the galaxy realized something far more terrifying than conquest. Humanity had mastered psychological warfare on a scale no one had ever seen. The trials ended with sentences carried out swiftly. Leaders vanishing into prisons none would ever escape. The galaxy did not see them again. They did not need to. Their absence was reminder enough. Justice had been served. But the galaxy sensed, with growing dread, that humanity's lessons were not over. The galaxy might have endured the first lesson. The ghost fleet, the abductions, the trials, terrifying, yes, but still within the realm of comprehension. Earth had struck at leaders, not worlds. They had shown restraint. The hegemony, humiliated though it was, still existed. Other species told themselves that humanity's display was limited, that perhaps it had been a single trick, a technological stunt that could not be repeated. And then the Krell made their mistake. The Krell Dominion had long hated the Zerians. Where the hegemony ruled with hierarchy, the Krell believed in conquest through terror. They saw weakness in the aftermath of New Montana and the trials. To them, humanity's silence afterward meant vulnerability. They reasoned, if humans strike only leaders, then we need not fear. Their vengeance is surgical, not total. So, when a Krell strike group encountered a small human mining operation in the Epsilon Eridani system, they attacked. 3 cruisers descended, slaughtered 17 workers, and destroyed the facility before retreating into hyperspace. 17 deaths. In a galaxy of trillions, it was nothing. But to humanity, 17 was everything. The response did not come in hours, or even days. It came in silence first. Ominous, unsettling silence. Observatories across dozens of species began reporting strange readings from the Krell star system. Gravimetric anomalies, impossible neutrino surges, patterns in the solar winds that looked disturbingly deliberate. Krell scientists dismissed the warnings as equipment errors. Then, 19 days after the attack, their sun began to die. It did not go nova. It did not collapse. It unwound. Filaments of plasma stretched outward like threads unraveling from a spool. Magnetic fields twisted into spirals, pulling entire arcs of burning gas into space. Planets cracked and boiled as the stellar winds intensified, stripping atmospheres in hours. The Krell homeworld's oceans evaporated by midday. By nightfall, its surface glowed molten red. And then came the image. As the star tore itself apart, the plasma filaments bent unnaturally, folding into a shape no astrophysicist could explain. Across the void, visible to every sensor, every telescope, even to the naked eye, the streams of stellar fire formed the unmistakable outline of a human hand. 5 fingers stretched open, palm unfurling across the cosmos. It was not an explosion. It was a message. Billions of Krell perished in less than a day. Their fleets, their worlds, their culture, all erased with a gesture. Their colonies in neighboring systems, cut off from supply and leadership, collapsed within weeks. The Dominion was not merely defeated, it ceased to exist. And through it all, no human ship was ever detected, no weapons signatures were recorded, no trace of conventional attack remained. The galaxy named it the Atropos Anomaly, after the myth of the fate who cut the thread of life, but privately, in every council chamber and every intelligence agency, the whispers carried another name, Project Prometheus. Unquestioned, Earth denied everything. A spokesperson for the United Earth Council issued a statement. The stellar event in the Krell system appears to be a rare and catastrophic natural occurrence. Our scientific community extends condolences to all affected. It was delivered with a straight face, broadcast across the stars, but no one believed them, because everyone knew nature does not shape stars into human hands. The psychological shock was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. If humanity could unravel a sun, what else could they do? Could they collapse hyperspace lanes, making entire empires unreachable? Could they ignite nebulae, turning star nurseries into weapons? Could they unmake black holes? No one knew, and that was worse than certainty. The Zerians, still reeling from the trials, panicked. Treaties were signed with record speed. Reparations were offered unprompted. Old rivals abandoned wars, too terrified to risk drawing Earth's gaze. Even neutral civilizations scrambled to send gifts, ambassadors, concessions, anything to keep humanity placated. Because the message was clear. The first lesson, New Montana, taught that human lives were sacred. Kill them and justice would come. The second lesson, Atropos, taught that nowhere was safe, not stars, not systems, not suns themselves. Humanity had transcended war. They did not need fleets, they did not need armies, they had Prometheus. And the galaxy, for the first time, realized a terrifying truth. Humanity did not merely wage war, humanity had learned how to erase civilizations. The death of the Krell Dominion was not simply a tragedy, it was a revelation. For millennia, the galaxy had operated on predictable rules. Empires rose, empires fell. Wars were fought over resources, colonies, borders. Victors claimed spoils, losers paid reparations. The cycle was brutal, but it was familiar. Everyone understood it. Project Prometheus shattered that cycle. The unraveling of the Krell star was not just another war. It was not conquest, not politics, not diplomacy. It was annihilation delivered with surgical artistry. One moment, an empire existed. The next, it was a graveyard. And worse, it had been done without fleets, without weapons anyone could detect, without even the courtesy of a declaration. The galaxy realized that humanity had changed the rules. The Zerian hegemony, once unshakable, felt the shift first. Its fleets still patrolled, its banners still flew, but its confidence was gone. Its citizens whispered in marketplaces about the overlord returned broken from human custody, about the ghost fleet that could appear anywhere, about suns shaped into human hands, temples filled with prayers not to Zerian gods, but to the unknown power of Earth. Do not provoke them became not just a phrase, but a litany. Humanity, disturbingly, did not act like conquerors. They did not demand tribute or expand borders. Instead, they integrated. Ambassadors from Earth arrived at galactic councils, polite and smiling. Human merchants established trade routes, offering technology carefully rationed to foster dependence. Scientists collaborated, sharing select breakthroughs but withholding others. On the surface, it looked like partnership. But every alien diplomat could feel the weight beneath it, the sense that humans were not equals, but arbiters. They had the power to destroy suns. They had already demonstrated it. And yet they chose to sit at the table, smiling, offering wine and contracts, while every species signed with hands trembling. This was not mercy, it was deterrence. Admiral Dante Washington put it bluntly in one recorded session. "We don't need to rule you. You'll rule yourselves, with us in mind." And so they did. Every admiral in the galaxy recalculated war plans. Every ruler reconsidered expansionist dreams. Every criminal syndicate paused before attacking a convoy that might, just might, carry a single human among its crew. Military strategy shifted from "can we win" to "would humanity notice?" The calculus was absolute. To younger species, humanity became myth. Colonies offered tributes unasked. Explorers mapped routes that avoided human sectors entirely. New religions rose, casting Earth as divine arbiters, some revering them as saviors, others fearing them as destroyers. And always, in the background, lingered the whisper, Prometheus. No one knew what it truly was. Some said it was a weapon hidden in the heart of Sol itself. Others believed it was a fleet of machines buried in subspace. A few whispered it was not a weapon at all, but an understanding of physics so far beyond current science that calling it technology was insulting. The details didn't matter. What mattered was that humanity had erased an empire with it. Once was enough. The new galactic order was not written in treaties or carved in borders. It was written in fear. Fear of ghosts that could walk through walls. Fear of prisons worse than death. Fear of suns unraveling into human hands. Humanity had become more than a civilization. They had become a constant, a law of nature, not an empire, but an inevitability. Historian Torlak Zoom, in his final chronicle, captured the paradox. They could have ruled openly, but they did not. They could have destroyed us all, but they did not. They let us live, because living in their shadow is a greater prison than death. We feared the Zerians for millennia, but fear of humanity is different. It is not fear of conquest, it is fear of erasure, and it is eternal. And so the galaxy adapted. Wars dwindled, rivalries cooled, trade flourished, but always under the unspoken understanding that one species stood apart. When children asked their parents why the star seemed quieter, the answer was always the same. Because the humans are watching. They wiped out a human colony. Earth's response erased a star system. The galaxy would not forget.